Let's talk about the arch-Remainer, Alastair Campbell. Ever since the Brexit vote, Alastair struggled to live like a normal person. He's been going around saying that Brexit voters are stupid and compared them to jihadis. He personally believes that Brexit has turned the UK into a joke.
It's actually madness, the state that we're in now. And you talk about all these Dutch football fans, thousands of them outside. Most of the world is looking on at Britain at the moment and thinks we've become a global joke. That is the truth about what's happening. And Brexit has done that. Brexit will continue to do that. And I think there comes a point where leaders, and all MPs are leaders, have to be honest with people about the damage this is doing to the country.
Apparently, Alastair Campbell really cares about what people want, and he says that we should listen to what they say. When 100,000 people came on the streets and protested against Brexit, he said that the government and politicians should now change their mind. But when back in 2003, 1 million people marched on the streets of London against the Iraq war, he said that we should ignore them because they don't know anything. But the interesting part is now he's saying that the opinion polls are now shifting towards Remain, so we should just cancel Brexit. But luckily, the BBC did a fact check.
That's right, Andrew. So Alistair Campbell said earlier that there's been a big shift in support for a second referendum, and Rachel Sylvester said as well that momentum is building for it. I called Professor John Curtis and I asked him that question, and this is what he told me. There is no consistent evidence of a shift in support for a second referendum. He told me that because he's been looking at the work of 4 different pollsters who have all been tracking this issue consistently, and 2 of them say that support for a second referendum is growing, and 2 of them say that it's falling. So that's why he says there's no consistent evidence of the support for it growing.
So Alastair has this fundamental problem with the idea and concept of Brexit. And sometimes he wonders and asks about whether Brexit will actually make our life better.
Yes.
You think Brexit will make their lives better?
I think aspects of Brexit, being able to do certain things in terms of our economy, supporting our foundation industries, having a realignment of balance in terms of our economy, and more importantly, Alistair, than anything else, I'm afraid it's sad that it took a referendum and leaving the European Union for people like yourself and others to actually start listening to those communities.
All right.
He's intent on not.
No, he's not listening.
Okay.
But we know that he doesn't actually care about improving lives. When you look at his past and track record, his policies and the Labour government he supported, their policies resulted in people losing their homes, losing their jobs, our education system standards going down, our healthcare system. But let's talk about his lies and intentions. As the Labour MP Lisa Nandy discovered recently, Alastair Campbell claims to just want a second referendum because people should have a say. But Lisa discovered that he doesn't really care about that, he just wants to cancel Brexit. So she asked him to just be honest.
I would have a lot more time and respect for this campaign if you were just honest and upfront and said we want to stop Brexit. And actually it is in the gift of Parliament to do that, and you could lobby MPs to do that. What you can't do is go back to people in towns like mine who were asked in good faith, do you want to be in the EU or not? And they said, no, we don't. And they still don't, and say to them, well, we're now going to give you a second go at this that you didn't ask for and you don't want, and we're going to give you 2 options on the ballot paper which you consider to be different versions of Remain, which you've already rejected. We are breaking our democracy.
It's interesting because Alastair says that he cares about democracy and politicians keeping their promises. But back in 2017, he supported the Labour Party manifesto, which clearly stated that we are accepting the result of the referendum and we are going to implement Brexit.
What is complicated about the 2017 manifesto, which said that Labour respects the result of the referendum? And then it made clear, in a way that doesn't please all Leave voters, just as respecting the result of the referendum doesn't please all Remain voters, that we would seek a close economic relationship with the EU after we leave. And we would seek to protect jobs and put that first over other considerations like immigration. Now, these are choices that were made, and they're not always palatable choices. I have to go home. I'm going home later tonight to do door knocking in the local elections, and I have to explain this to people on the doorstep, that nobody is going to get everything that they want. But most of the public are pragmatic and they're prepared to compromise, and what they see when they see you and some of your colleagues in the People's Vote campaign is just a group of people who are not prepared to listen, not prepared to compromise.
I don't agree with that though.
That's why we're stuck.
Yeah, Remainers like Alastair Campbell never listen and never learn. Let's be honest, the Brexit process right now is not going too well for 2 main reasons. Firstly, Theresa May and her government. We've seen a huge lack of leadership from Downing Street and throughout the whole Parliament in general. The second reason is Remainers like Alastair Campbell. their refusal to accept the referendum result, and their hatred towards certain people in our society, just because they don't share the same opinions and ideas with them.
I'm a Brexiteer and I feel really frustrated. You're absolutely right, Alistair, that we're 3 years on now and we're in an absolute mess. The reason that we're 3 years on in an absolute mess is because people like yourselves have point blank refused to accept that people like me wanted to leave the European Union. And instead we've spent 3 years, where politicians have pushed their own agendas, which is,
I think they've done their job.
Hold on, which is trying to get people like me to say, oh, I made a mistake because I looked at a bus or I listened to a thing on Facebook or whatever it is. And that's why 3 years down the line, we've had all of this posturing. We've had no leadership. You started, Joe, by saying, is it time that Labour picks a side? It was time that Labour picked a side and crucially stuck to it ages ago. No offence, Lisa, but they've been an absolute jerk. Wherever the wind blows, they change their position. Voters do not understand half the time what Labour even stand for when it comes.
The problem with Alastair Campbell and people like him is that they see politics as a game. They are primarily tribal. So they would oppose ideas, policies, or set of values simply because their opposite side is supporting them. They might claim that they are doing it because they care about people's lives. But we've seen time and time again that that's not really the case. And clearly they don't care about the consequences. They simply care about winning this political game. Before we finish, actually I mentioned it last time as well, if you want to make sure that all the videos do actually come up on your timeline when you go on YouTube, make sure you click on the notification bell next to the subscribe button, because we can't actually trust the YouTube algorithm these days when it comes to conservative channels and videos. And obviously if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you'll click on the subscribe button, and I will see you tomorrow with a new video.